Aira stood still in the middle of their living room, staring at the phone in her hand. The message from her husband's company was like a dagger to her heart. She had always believed Dua when he said he was quitting his job on his own terms. But this wasn't just a resignation. It was an announcement of his dismissal. Dua had been fired. The reason? He had been caught deceiving the company, manipulating financial records for months. Her mind went blank. It didn't make sense. Dua was always so careful, so convincing. How could he have been so deceptive? Why hadn't she seen it coming? Aira felt her world crumble around her. She was consumed by a deep sense of betrayal, unable to process the gravity of the situation. How could the man she loved, the man she trusted with her life, have done something so cruel? It felt like a lie that had been spun around her, and now it was unraveling before her eyes. The apartment, once a place of warmth and comfort, now felt suffocating. She couldn't stand being there. She needed to leave. She needed to get away from the man who had built this web of lies. With shaking hands, Aira opened their wardrobe and pulled out a bag. She threw in some essentials: clothes, her wallet, her phone. She didn't think about it. She didn't care. She just had to go. The sound of the shower running in the next room snapped her back to reality. Dua was still inside, oblivious to what was happening. Aira paused for a moment, listening to the sound of the water. Could she face him? Could she confront him? No, not yet. The thought of him standing there, lying to her face, was too much to bear. She closed the bag, silently moved toward the door, and left. She didn't even look back as she quietly closed it behind her. Outside, the night air hit her face like a cold slap. She walked down the stairs of the apartment building, her thoughts racing. She didn't know where to go, but she knew she couldn't stay. She couldn't be near Dua. Not now. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, but she ignored it. She didn't want to hear his voice. She didn't want to hear him beg for forgiveness. Aira headed for the bus stop. She needed to be alone. She needed time to think. But more than anything, she needed to feel safe. She needed her sister. She dialed Maya's number as the bus arrived, and within minutes, she was on her way to her sister's apartment. The bus was quiet, the hum of the engine filling the space between her and the reality she was running from. She couldn't stop thinking about Dua. What had happened? Why hadn't he told her the truth? By the time the bus pulled into her stop, she was already bracing herself for what lay ahead. She couldn't stay in this chaos any longer. She had to confront her own fears, and the terrifying truth about her husband. As Aira stepped off the bus, she could feel the weight of the decision she had just made pressing down on her shoulders. She hadn't looked back, hadn't hesitated. But now, with every step she took towards Maya's apartment, her heart felt heavier. What was she going to do? Could she stay with her sister indefinitely? What would Dua do when he realized she was gone? Her phone buzzed again as she approached Maya's building. She quickly glanced at it, Dua's name flashing on the screen. Another text. She turned it off without reading it. She didn't want to hear from him, didn't want to listen to the pleas and excuses he would surely offer. She just needed space, time to figure everything out. When she arrived at the apartment, Maya was already standing by the door, her brow furrowed in concern. "Aira," she said, her voice soft but worried. "What's going on?" Aira could hardly answer. She stepped into the apartment, her eyes filling with tears. She tried to speak, but words failed her. It felt like everything inside her was breaking, like her entire world was crumbling around her. She just collapsed into her sister's arms. I can't be there with him anymore," Aira finally managed to say, her voice trembling. "He lied to me, Maya. He wasn't quitting. He was fired for deceiving his company. He's been lying to me for months and now I don't know who he is." Maya's arms tightened around her, offering comfort. "You don't have to explain it all now. Just breathe. You're safe here, okay? Don't worry about him." But Aira couldn't shake the fear gnawing at her. She could feel Dua's presence even though he wasn't there. She knew he'd be looking for her. He wouldn't let her go so easily. Hours passed, and Aira tried to settle into the new, strange quiet of Maya's apartment. But her mind kept returning to the same thoughts. Dua's lies. The deception. How had she not seen it? How could she have missed the signs? Her phone vibrated again. She sighed, knowing it would be Dua again. But when she checked it, it wasn't him. It was a message from a number she didn't recognize. "Come home, Aira. You'll regret this." Her heart raced. Who was this? Why was someone threatening her? She stared at the message, feeling her breath hitch in her chest. What had she gotten herself into? Aira couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. She looked at the message again, her fingers trembling as they hovered over the screen. The words replayed in her mind like an ominous warning. "Come home, Aira. You'll regret this." Her stomach twisted into knots. This wasn't just an empty threat. Someone was watching her, and she had no idea who or why. Aira tried to push the thoughts away. She couldn't let this consume her. She needed to get some answers. She needed to understand what had really happened with Dua and why he had kept all this hidden from her. She couldn't live in this uncertainty any longer. She stood up, pacing back and forth in Maya's apartment. Her sister was in the kitchen, humming softly to herself, unaware of the storm swirling inside Aira. Finally, unable to stay still any longer, Aira grabbed her phone and dialed Richard's number, Dua's former boss. She had to know what really happened. She had to understand why her world had been turned upside down. The phone rang for what felt like forever before Richard finally answered. His voice was low and cautious, as though he wasn't sure if it was safe to talk. "Hello, Richard. It's Aira. I know you probably don't want to get involved, but I need to understand. Why did Dua get fired? I need to know the truth. The company said it was because of deception, but there has to be more to it than that." There was a pause on the other end of the line, and Aira held her breath. She could hear Richard's hesitation, and it only made her more anxious. Finally, his voice broke the silence. "All right, Aira, but you need to understand something. This is going to be hard to hear. Dua wasn't just stealing money. He was involved in something much darker. Something dangerous. He got caught up in it because of his half-brother, Arka. A man I've tried to keep out of our company's business for years. Dua thought he could protect him, but he got tangled in something he couldn't get out of." Aira's heart skipped a beat. Arka. She had never heard of this man. The name was unfamiliar, but the warning in Richard's voice made her stomach turn. "Why didn't he tell me? Why didn't he say anything about this to me?" Aira asked, her voice breaking. Richard sighed. "I don't know. I think Dua was trying to shield you from this world. But the truth is, Arka has a lot of control over him. He's dangerous. Aira. If Dua had refused to help him, it could have cost him, and you, a lot more than just a job." Aira sat down, the weight of Richard's words pressing down on her. Dua wasn't just in trouble for his actions. He was caught in the grip of someone much worse. Someone who wasn't afraid to hurt those around him. The truth was more terrifying than she had ever imagined. "I don't know what to do," Aira whispered, her voice barely audible. "You don't have a choice anymore," Richard replied. "You need to stay away from him. And if you can, stay away from Arka too. He's dangerous. Aira. He'll do whatever it takes to get what he wants." Aira ended the call, her hands shaking. She looked up at Maya, who had been watching her closely. Aira could see the concern in her sister's eyes. "What did he say?" Maya asked gently. Aira took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. Dua's involved in something dangerous. He wasn't just lying about his job. He was trying to protect his half-brother, Arka. And now I'm in the middle of it too. Maya's expression turned serious. "This is worse than we thought. Aira, you need to be careful. If Arka is really involved, things are going to get a lot harder." Aira nodded, her mind racing. She had no idea what to do next, but one thing was clear. She couldn't ignore the danger anymore. The next morning, Aira woke up with a sense of dread that clung to her like a shadow. She hadn't slept well, her mind racing with thoughts of Dua and his mysterious half-brother Arka. Everything felt wrong, like the calm before a storm. She glanced over at Maya, who was sitting on the couch, reading something on her phone. Aira could see the worry in her eyes, but she didn't know what to say. Aira stood up, pacing the small living room. Her phone sat on the coffee table, silent for now, but she knew it wouldn't stay that way. She could feel the weight of it, the threat it represented. The message from Arka, that one simple, chilling sentence. "Come home, Aira. You'll regret this." It echoed in her mind like a constant reminder of how far she had stepped into a world she didn't understand. Maya looked up, sensing Aira's unease. Aira, I think it's time to take action. This isn't just about Dua anymore. This Arca person, whoever he is, has to be dealt with. Aira paused, her thoughts swirling. But how? What can we even do? I don't know where he is. I don't know anything about him. Richard said he's dangerous. But what does that even mean? I can't go back, Maya. I can't even talk to Dua. Maya stood up, walking over to her. I know. But we can't just sit here and wait for something bad to happen. We need to figure out who Arca is, where he is, what he wants, and how we can stop him from coming after you. The thought of facing Arca sent a chill down Aira's spine, but she knew Maya was right. She couldn't just hide forever. She needed answers, and she needed them fast. I'll try to find out more about Arca, Maya said, determination in her voice. I have some friends who might know people who know him. We can start there. Aira nodded, though the fear in her heart hadn't faded. And what if we can't find him? What if he's already coming for me? Before Maya could answer, Aira's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call. She froze, staring at the screen for a moment. The name on it made her heart skip a beat. Dua. Maya's eyes widened, and Aira hesitated before answering. Hello. There was a long silence on the other end, before Dua's voice finally came through, strained and broken. Aira. Please, you have to listen to me. I never meant for any of this to happen. I never wanted you to find out the truth like this. I don't know what to do anymore. Aira clenched her jaw, holding back the tears that were threatening to spill. Dua, you've lied to me. You've kept so much from me. I don't know who you are anymore. I didn't want to hurt you, Aira, he said, his voice pleading. But Arca, he won't stop. I'm trying to protect you. Please, come back. We can fix this. Aira's heart pounded in her chest. Fix this? You've already ruined everything. I can't go back to that life, Dua. Not after everything I've found out. I'm sorry, Dua whispered, his voice cracking. I'll do anything to make it right. Just, please, don't leave me like this. Aira felt a sharp pang in her chest, but she forced herself to stay strong. I can't, Dua. You need to face the consequences of what you've done. I can't be part of this anymore. With that, she hung up, her hands shaking. The phone slid from her fingers, falling onto the coffee table with a soft thud. Maya stepped forward, wrapping an arm around Aira. Are you okay? Aira nodded, though the weight of her decision hung heavy on her. I had to do it, Maya. I had to let go. But as she said the words, she couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. Arca hadn't let up. The message, the threat, it was only the beginning. And she had no idea just how dangerous things were about to get. Aira couldn't shake the feeling of unease as the days passed. The phone call with Dua had only made things worse. Every time she looked at her phone, she half expected a new message from him, from Arca, or worse, a call that would drag her further into this nightmare. The walls of Maya's apartment seemed to close in on her. She tried to focus on the task at hand, finding out who Arca really was and what he wanted, but it was getting harder to think straight. Her mind was a constant whirl of anxiety, fear, and confusion. Maya was busy making calls, trying to find any trace of Arca. She had spoken to a few people who might have known him, but the answers were always vague. It was as if Arca was a ghost, someone who was there but never fully seen. It didn't help that every lead they followed seemed to lead to a dead end. But then, on the fourth day after the phone call, they got a break. Maya had received a tip from a friend who claimed to know Arca's whereabouts. They were told to meet at an old warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The place was a known haunt for criminals, a place where shady deals and illicit activities took place. Aira's heart skipped a beat as Maya relayed the news. This is it, Maya said, her voice serious. This is where we can find him. Aira's stomach turned. Every part of her wanted to refuse, to tell Maya it was too dangerous, but she knew there was no turning back. She had to face Arca. She had to understand why her life had been turned upside down. As they arrived at the warehouse, Aira felt a chill run down her spine. The building loomed in the distance, its broken windows and rusted doors giving it an eerie, abandoned look. The air was thick with tension, and the hairs on the back of Aira's neck stood on end. Maya parked the car and turned to Aira. "Stay close to me. We don't know what we're walking into." Aira nodded, her hands trembling as she adjusted her jacket. The cold night air only heightened her anxiety. As they made their way to the entrance of the warehouse, Aira's heart pounded louder with each step. This was no longer just about Dua. This was about survival. It was about making sure that she wasn't pulled any further into a world that had already taken too much from her. The warehouse door creaked open as they pushed it, the sound of metal scraping against the floor making Aira's stomach churn. Inside, the dim light cast long shadows against the walls. The air was thick with the smell of rust and dampness. As they stepped further in, Aira saw a figure standing at the far end of the room. Arka. He was taller than she expected, his features sharp and cold. His eyes glinted in the low light, a mixture of curiosity and amusement on his face. He seemed relaxed, almost too relaxed, considering the situation. His hands were in his pockets as he watched them approach, a smirk playing on his lips. "Well, well," he said in a low voice, his accent thick but clear. "I didn't expect you two to be so bold. I've been waiting for this moment, Aira." Aira felt her breath catch in her throat. She had seen photos of him before, but standing in front of him now was different. The reality of his presence sent a wave of cold fear through her body. "You're Arka," Aira said, trying to keep her voice steady despite the overwhelming fear she felt. Arka's smirk widened. "I am. And you must be Aira. Dua's wife, right?" Aira's eyes narrowed. "Why are you doing this? Why are you threatening me?" He stepped closer, the air between them charged with tension. "Because you've crossed a line, Aira. You thought you could walk away from all of this. You thought you could just forget everything, but that's not how it works. Now you're part of my world too." Aira's heart raced as she took a step back. This was it. She had to stay strong. She couldn't let him intimidate her. "I won't be a part of this," Aira said firmly. "I don't care what you want. I'm done." Arka's eyes darkened, his smirk fading into a cold, calculating expression. "You're not done with me, Aira. Not yet. There's no way out now." Before Aira could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed behind them. She turned quickly, her heart leaping into her throat. More figures appeared from the shadows. Men who seemed to be part of Arka's crew, their faces hidden in the darkness. Aira's breath quickened. She knew she was outnumbered, and the fear of what might happen next gripped her. She was trapped. The men from the shadows closed in, their presence suffocating. Aira's heart was in her throat, and her mind raced. Maya stood beside her, unflinching, but Aira could see the tension in her posture. Maya's usual confidence seemed to falter in the face of the growing danger. Arka motioned for his men to stop, his eyes never leaving Aira's. "You're not in control here, Aira," he said, his voice low but carrying authority. "You think you can just walk away from me, from all of this, but you're wrong. You're in this now, whether you like it or not." Aira's hands trembled as she clenched them into fists, trying to mask her fear. She could feel the cold sweat on her skin, but she refused to show any weakness. She knew Maya was right by her side, and that gave her a sliver of courage. Still, every part of her wanted to flee, to run from this nightmare, but she couldn't. She had to stand her ground. "You've already involved Dua," Maya said, stepping forward. Her voice was firm, but Aira could see her own unease behind the words. "And now you're dragging Aira into this. What is it you want from us, Arka?" Arka laughed, a cold, disarming sound. "What do I want? I want everything." Dua thought he could hide his little secrets from me, but he didn't understand who he was dealing with. "And now, Aira, now you're tangled in it. This isn't just about Dua anymore. This is about control." He moved closer to Aira, his gaze intense and calculating. "You see, Aira, people like Dua, and people like you think you can escape. You think you can get away with things, but there's always someone watching. Always someone who knows more than you think." Aira stood frozen, the weight of his words sinking in. He wasn't just threatening her. He was trying to break her, to make her doubt her ability to ever truly escape this world. Maya stepped between them, blocking Arka's approach. "We're not afraid of you, Arka. You've underestimated us, and it's your mistake." For a moment, everything was still. Aira's breath was shallow, her hands still trembling. She felt the eyes of Arka's men on her, sizing her up like prey. But then, in an instant, the tension broke. Arka gave a small, almost amused smile and raised a hand, signaling his men to step back. "Fine," he said. "You can stand there and talk all you want, but it changes nothing. I'll give you time to think. But you'd better make the right choice, Aira. I won't be patient forever." With that, he turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing through the empty warehouse. His men followed him, leaving Aira and Maya alone in the cold silence. Aira stood there for a long moment, not moving, her mind reeling. The weight of what Arka had said gnawed at her. Could she truly escape this world? Was there any way out without putting herself, or Maya, in even more danger? "I don't know what we're supposed to do now," Aira whispered, her voice barely audible. Maya was quiet for a moment before she spoke. "We do what we've always done. We fight." Aira looked at her friend, searching her face for any sign of doubt. There was none. Maya was resolute. But Aira wasn't sure if the strength Maya had was something she could rely on, or if it was just the last shred of hope they both clung to. "We'll figure this out," Maya continued, her voice steady. "One way or another we will." Aira nodded, but in her heart, she couldn't shake the fear that was beginning to take root. She had never felt so small, so vulnerable. Aira couldn't sleep that night. The events in the warehouse played over and over in her mind, each detail sharp and unnerving. Arka's words haunted her, like a dark cloud that refused to dissipate. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts racing. What did he mean by control? What did he really want from her and Dua? Every question seemed to lead to another, and Aira couldn't find the answers she desperately needed. Maya had tried to reassure her earlier, but the fear that clung to her like a second skin wouldn't let go. The threat Arka posed wasn't just a matter of physical danger. It was psychological. He was trying to break her spirit, to force her into submission. And in that moment, Aira realized something that terrified her even more than the physical threats. She had no idea how deep Arka's reach went. How much control he actually had over Dua, over their lives. As the sun began to rise, Aira sat up in bed, her mind made up. There was only one way out of this. She had to confront Arka once and for all. She couldn't wait any longer. The uncertainty was unbearable. If she didn't act now, she might lose everything. The plan was simple. They would meet Arka at a neutral location, away from his men, away from the shadows. Aira didn't trust that he would honor any promises, but this was the only option. Maya was with her every step of the way, just as determined. "I'll go with you," Maya said, her voice resolute. "We'll face him together." "I don't want you to get hurt," Aira replied, the guilt heavy in her chest. "This is my fight." Maya shook her head, her eyes unwavering. "We've already been dragged into this. You're not facing it alone." They both knew that the moment they stepped into that meeting, things could go wrong. Arka wasn't a man to play fair. He would have a plan of his own, something Aira couldn't predict. But she had no choice. She had to find out the truth. They arrived at the meeting place, a secluded park on the outskirts of the city. The trees around them were tall and thick, casting long shadows in the early morning light. Aira's heart pounded in her chest as she looked around, waiting for any sign of Arka. And then he appeared. He emerged from the shadows, his presence as cold and imposing as ever. His dark eyes locked onto Aira's, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. The tension in the air was palpable. "I was wondering when you'd show up," Arka said, his voice smooth, almost too calm. "I've been waiting for you, Aira. I've been waiting for you to make a choice." Aira held her ground, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "I'm not here to play your games, Arka. I'm here to end this. Whatever hold you think you have over me, it's over." Arka's lips curled into a smirk. "You think you have control now? You think you can just walk away from all of this?" "I don't think so, Aira. You're already too deep in. You can't escape that easily." "I don't need to escape," Aira shot back. "I need you to stop. I need you to leave me and my family alone." There was a flicker of amusement in Arka's eyes, but he didn't speak for a moment. He took a step closer, his gaze never leaving hers. "You're brave, I'll give you that. But bravery doesn't change the facts. You're mine now, Aira. Whether you accept it or not." The words hit her like a slap to the face. She had been trying to regain control of her life, to free herself from this nightmare. But here he was, trying to remind her that there was no way out. It felt like a trap. But Aira wasn't going to back down. Not this time. If I'm yours, Aira said, her voice low and unwavering, then you've already lost. Because I will never belong to you. Aira turned to Maya, who gave her a small nod. The plan was set. This wasn't just about fighting for her freedom anymore. It was about proving to herself that she was stronger than the fear Arka tried to instill in her. Before Arka could react, Maya stepped forward, pulling a small device from her pocket. Aira's heart skipped a beat as the sound of a siren blared to life in the distance. Arka's eyes widened, his smirk faltering for the first time. You've been tracked, Maya said, her voice cold as steel. The authorities are on their way. Arka's expression changed, his calm demeanor slipping. For the first time, Aira saw fear in his eyes. You think they can stop me? Maya's lips curled into a knowing smile. They don't have to. They just need to know where you are. Arka turned to leave, his pace quickening, but it was too late. Police sirens could be heard getting louder. His men, who had been watching from a distance, began to scatter, realizing they were about to be caught in a trap. Aira stood there, watching as the man who had haunted her every waking moment for weeks now scrambled to escape. But this time, he wouldn't win. He had underestimated her. And now the tables had turned. The sound of sirens grew louder as Aira stood firm, her heart racing, but her resolve unshakable. She glanced at Maya, whose expression was a mixture of triumph and relief. Arka's men, who had been waiting to spring into action, were now scattering, realizing that their carefully laid plans were falling apart. Arka himself was moving faster now, trying to disappear into the labyrinth of trees surrounding the park, but it was too late. The police were close, and they were coming in fast. Aira could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. The moment that would decide whether or not she could finally take back control of her life. As Arka dashed through the underbrush, his eyes wild with desperation, Aira knew that he wouldn't give up without a fight. He had too much to lose. But this time, there was no escape for him. This time, Aira had the upper hand. The police arrived just as Arka was about to disappear into the shadows, his form barely visible among the trees. Flashing lights illuminated the park, and several officers emerged from their vehicles, guns drawn. The situation was escalating quickly. Maya turned to Aira, her eyes wide. Go, Maya urged, a sense of urgency in her voice. We have to get out of here. It's not safe anymore. Aira hesitated for a moment, the chaos unfolding around them overwhelming, but she knew Maya was right. They needed to leave before the situation got worse. But as they started to retreat, they heard the unmistakable sound of Arka's voice shouting from behind them. You think you've won, Aira? He bellowed, his voice echoing through the park. You think you've outsmarted me? You don't know what you're dealing with. You think the police can protect you from me? I'll make you regret this. I'll make you pay. His words were filled with venom, but there was a crack in his bravado. The confidence he had carried with him for so long was faltering. Aira knew that the moment he realized there was no way out, he would resort to anything to escape. And that thought chilled her to the core. Keep moving, Maya urged again, pulling Aira away from the scene, toward the safety of the nearby buildings. Aira's mind was racing, processing everything that had happened in the past few hours. It had all been leading up to this, the final confrontation with Arka. The moment when she would either lose everything or gain it all back. Aira wasn't sure how long they walked, but eventually, they reached a quiet street. The sirens were a distant hum now, and the danger of the moment seemed to ease. But Aira couldn't shake the feeling that the battle wasn't truly over yet. Arka might have been cornered, but he was still dangerous. And she knew that whatever came next, she couldn't afford to let her guard down. They found a small cafe to sit and catch their breath. Aira sipped her coffee slowly, feeling the exhaustion of the past few days settle in her bones. Maya sat across from her, watching her closely, but Aira could see the relief in her eyes. The worst was over. For now. I can't believe it's finally over, Aira whispered, more to herself than to Maya. She had faced her deepest fears, confronted the man who had controlled her life, and come out the other side alive. It felt unreal. Don't get comfortable, Maya said softly. Arka may be gone, but there are still people who are loyal to him. We're not out of the woods yet. Aira nodded, her mind still processing the enormity of everything that had happened. She had made it through the worst of it, but she knew that the road to true freedom was far from over. Arca's empire might have crumbled, but its remnants still lingered in the shadows. And Aira wasn't naive enough to think that she would be left in peace just yet. Still, for the first time in a long while, she felt a glimmer of hope. She had regained her life, her independence. And with Maya by her side, she wasn't facing the future alone. "We'll be ready," Aira said, her voice steady. "Whatever comes next, we'll handle it." As they sat there, in the quiet of the cafe, the weight of the past seemed to lift, even if only for a moment. They had won this battle. And Aira was determined to make sure it wouldn't be the last.